Hello and happy Valentine's Day. I hope everyone is doing well and was able to either celebrate over the weekend if this is something that you like to celebrate, or just enjoying your day today and the beginning of your week. Today I wanted to talk about anger, which is feels a little bit off topic. I feel like it's pretty on topic though. And one thing I wanted to bring up, or one of the reasons that I'm wanting to bring it up, is that I've noticed that perfectionists and people who are very high achieving and very hard on themselves, people who are very sort of high performing and have a lot of things that depend on them to be able to keep moving, tend to have very high stress tolerances but low frustration tolerances. And so what we're looking at is a lot of anger and irritability, and maybe an expression of annoyance that that can be very painful for the people that we love, and it can be very painful for us because we're then we start asking questions. And I hear this all the time, is this really the kind of person that I am? I don't want to believe this about myself. I don't agree with the way that I've been expressing myself, but I don't know what to do with the anger. And then we have a lot of sort of pop psychology type belief systems that I think are circulating quite a bit about anger being a secondary emotion. And so actually there's that meme, you've probably all seen it. It's something I sat with my anger long enough until she told me that her real name was grief, things like that. I'm not saying that that's not true. So I understand that some people do experience grief as anger, because for some people anger actually feels safer, and so that is true. But at the same time, I prefer to approach anger as something that is really endemic to the human experience. It is one of the core emotional experiences, and I think it's a really important core emotional experience. It's communicating something to us, and I think something that's hard for people and perfectionists maybe specifically is that it does feel like a loss of control, in that moment when the anger is getting expressed, or it's getting expressed as irritability or annoyance or whatever. We often feel like we're not ourselves in that moment, and then afterwards it's I would not have chosen to communicate that way, and yet I did communicate that way, and so what's wrong with me? Who am I really? Etc., etc. And I think that's very painful. And here's the tie-in. Here's where it comes back to Valentine's Day, right? That actually what we're needing and what we're looking for is not something that we specifically need to be doing differently in that moment. There are tools, there are skills, there are ways to deal with the things differently in the specific moments. It's just not what we're talking about today. But if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer that too. What we're actually talking about, or what I'm trying to get at, is that what we're looking at is a chronic experience of not prioritizing yourself. If you have a chronic experience of, I don't get my needs met, or I don't get to be okay, or I don't feel like I get to have a release, or I don't feel, et cetera, et cetera. We can talk about this in so many different ways, but I've heard it already today. I've heard it from probably 3 or 4 different people in a variety of different ways in the way that it showed up and came out. But it's really, we're talking about the same thing over and over again. I don't prioritize myself. I don't feel like I get to be okay. And then I don't show up in the spaces that are important to me in the way that I would prefer to be showing up. And then I wonder, is this really who I am? Is this really what it is? And all of those really fun questions, right? And so this is a reframe, right? If you're having anger and you're communicating anger, first of all, we just don't know how to communicate anger. I think in our society, we're not super great at that. I can't speak for other societies because I am not part of those societies, but I can say that in our culture, we're just not very good at communicating around anger. And so there are ways to communicate the anger more effectively and more gently and more, in a way that invites more intimacy and invites more support and allows for more vulnerability. I think all of those things are incredibly important. It's just that with that, the other decision that we also need to be making is, how much time and effort and energy am I putting towards these tasks, and how much of that time, energy, and what have you, do I need to actually be funneling back towards myself? How can I show up for myself, right, in a consistent enough way that I just have more bandwidth, that I have more, my threshold is a bit higher, right? And I want to make sure too, because I know that we have a tendency, we perfectionists and high achievers or whatever, right? Like we have a tendency to be very harsh with ourselves and to feel really guilty. I know that, if I'm like tense or difficult or not nice or whatever with especially my 3-year-old, my 1-year-old too, though, but she's like little, so yeah, it's different. The relationship is different right now. But if I interact with my 3-year-old in a way that I feel like is irritable, I can feel like that the tendency or the path towards just like really getting mad at myself and guilting myself and shaming myself. That's not going to help. Okay. So like, not only is it not going to help me, it's not going to help me behave any better. It's not going to help her. She's not going to feel better if I am like just beating myself up, right? What we actually need to do is remember one of the things that we need to do. And one of the things that I'd like to share with you today. And if this is the only thing that you take from this video today, then this is the one that I want you to take away. It's like the repair is more powerful and more important than never making the mistake in the first place. The repair is more powerful and more important, not just for you, but for the other person and for the relationship. And it also starts setting the tone for being able to show up for yourself more effectively in the future. So we're not creating as many circumstances where we're putting work ahead of ourselves. We're putting family ahead of ourselves. We're putting all of these like nuts and bolts, little tiny freaking things that we need to get done or whatever. Yeah, they're important. I get that they're important, and I'm not arguing that. What I am saying is you're going to be able to show up for those things more effectively if you actually give yourself space to feel your feelings and take care of yourself and prioritize yourself. So, happy Valentine's Day. If you have any thoughts or questions or comments about that, please do leave a comment under the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.